Thank you. So good evening, everyone. I'm Roger Bonacase, the chair of the University of Texas Department of Chemical Engineering, and I'm pleased to welcome you, alumni, friends, and indeed family of the department, to celebrate the 95th birthday of our friend, colleague, teacher, the one and only John J. McKetta. Now, Texans do have the reputation to embellish, but it's no exaggeration to say that John has mentored, encouraged, and genuinely loved thousands and thousands and thousands of students, friends, all of whom are here in spirit, if not in body with us tonight. So I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge some of the folks that have made tonight possible. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce the McKetta family. Mrs. Helen, a.k.a. Pinky McKetta, and the entire McKetta family. John and Pinky's three sons, Charlie, Mike, and Randy, are here with their families. Would you all please stand and be recognized? Tonight's celebration is possible thanks to the generosity of alumni and friends who stepped forward as event sponsors. Their names are listed in your program, and I'd like to ask our gold and silver level sponsors to please stand and be recognized. Don't be shy. Thank you so much for your support. John's leadership has truly shaped the Chemical Engineering Department, the Cockrell School of Engineering, and the University of Texas. It's only fitting, John, that you be surrounded tonight by your chemical engineering and other faculty colleagues, including the Dean of the Cockrell School, Greg Fenves, fellow Dean Emeriti, Ernest Gloina, and Ben Streetman. Would all the members of the UT faculty please stand and be recognized? Tonight, however, we are missing a dear colleague who we lost this week. Dr. James Rutherford Fair passed away on Monday evening in his home. Thursday was his 90th birthday. I'd like to pause for a moment of silence as we remember the joy, the intellect, and the friendship Jim brought to our lives over the years. Thank you. John, UT President Bill Powers asked me to pass along his regrets for missing this occasion, but he's up in Lincoln cheering on the horns, which I understand went successfully. Finally, I'd like to recognize our alumni. You've traveled from around the world to be here, from as far as Canada, Peru, Saudi Arabia, from California to New Jersey, Minnesota to Mexico, and all across Texas. You've been one of John's greatest joys since he started teaching in the fall of 1946. Would all the UT alumni please stand and be recognized? Planning for tonight's event has been underway for over a year, and we are enjoying the results this evening thanks to Kelsey Evans and Rachel Harms. Kelsey and Rachel, please stand and be recognized. In the back. So tonight is truly a celebration of John J. McKetta Jr. Enjoy his favorite dinner, a bowl of soup, a good steak, and we'll continue the program after Pinky's famous Mississippi mud pie. Thank you. So it's now my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the Cockrell School of Engineering, Dr. Gregory Fenves, to share a special perspective of John's leadership.
Well, good evening. My name is Greg Fenves, and I'm currently the Dean of the Cockrell School of Engineering. And tonight's spectacular assembly of alumni of our wonderful school and friends are the testament to the impact that Johnny McKetta has had on all our lives. So let's give him a hand. And as everybody knows, the motto of the University of Texas is, "What starts here changes the world," and I can think of no better single person at UT other than Johnny McKetta that has started so many things and has influenced so many people, so many of you here tonight, and have really changed our world. And Johnny, you are the University of Texas. It really is an honor and a privilege for me to be dean of this school, and it has been built on decades of great work from faculty, from alumni, and from my predecessors in the position of dean. Tonight, in addition to, of course, Johnny, who was a former dean of engineering, I'd like to recognize two other former deans, Ernest Gloina, sitting over here. Ernie, please stand. And my immediate predecessor, Ben Streetman. Ben, please stand. When I came to UT, I was told I was the 8th dean of the School of Engineering in 100 years. Well, 4 of us are here tonight. It's more than 30 years of leadership represented here. So I plan to tell a few stories about Johnny McKetta, but I sat next to Johnny over dinner, and now I have a lot more stories to tell about him. But let me just talk about a couple. When my wife Carmel and I moved to Austin 2 years ago, it was almost exactly 2 years, I remember very clearly the first time I met Johnny. It was at the reception for our engineering advisory board meeting, our fall meeting. And of course, I didn't know all that many people at that point. I'd only been here a month or so. And we walk into this crowded reception, meeting members of our advisory board, alumni, friends of the school. And there's this tight-knit group of people over in one corner of the reception room, over in the Hilton here in Austin. And I walk up to this group, and it opens up, and there's Johnny in the middle. And he gives me a big hug and says, "I'm glad you are here." And we have had that tremendous relationship over the past 2 years. So thank you, Johnny, for all the advice that you've given me and the help that you've given me since I've been here. Thanks very much. So everywhere that I travel throughout Texas, throughout the United States, and throughout the world, and just in the past year, I've been in New York and I've been in Washington, meeting UT alumni, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, in Europe, in Italy, Zurich, London. Everywhere I go, I run into an engineering alumnus who has a Johnny McKetta story. His influence truly is worldwide. And in fact, it's been long-standing. Ernie Cockrell, sitting here at our table, our school, of course, is named after Ernie's father. Tells me that when Ernie was a young boy and his father was one of the first members of the EFAC, the Engineering Foundation Committee, he met Johnny as a young boy and has had a relationship for a long time with Johnny. So it's around the world and over generations. So let me tell you just a couple of stories, and I'll tell you my favorite. And I like to get these lessons from former deans. Ben has told me some great stories. Ernest has told me some great stories. But I've got to tell you, this one takes the cake. Johnny McKetta's first day as Dean of the School of Engineering at the University of Texas. Calls a faculty meeting, 9 a.m., first day of Dean. And he's going to take an important action. He is going to reorganize the School of Engineering. And he's going to do it without a faculty vote, by the way. And he's decided he is going to merge the departments of chemical engineering and petroleum engineering. Put them together. Makes sense. Meeting ends at 10 o'clock. First day as dean. Johnny goes back to his office. 10:30, a secretary comes in. Still first day of dean. Governor Conley is on the phone. Now, Johnny thought, I'm in my first day as dean? How nice for the governor to call and congratulate me. Picks up the phone. Governor Conley, how nice to talk to you. And he had to hold the phone away from his ear. And as you know, the departments of chemical engineering and petroleum engineering were not merged. Okay, one other story. We've had outstanding leaders at the University of Texas, and I understand Bill Cunningham, former president and chancellor of the UT system, was here at the reception. Unfortunately, Bill couldn't stay, and I understand he's not the real Bill Cunningham, but he was still president and chancellor. And I'd also like to recognize Hans Mark. I know Hans is here somewhere in the audience. Hans, there you are. Hans, please stand. Former chancellor of the UT system. Now, Hans just told me this this evening. After Hans stepped down as a distinguished chancellor of the UT system, became a regular faculty member, which he still is, and contributes so much to our education and our research programs. And Hans, you've been a great help to me. Hans was appointed as the John J. McKetta Chair of Engineering. And so Johnny wrote Hans a letter of congratulations. And I'm not going to read the letter of congratulations to Hans for holding the McKetta Chair, but I will read the signature block on the letter of congratulations to Hans Mark. And the signature block from Johnny says, John J. McKetta, P.E., the holder of the Hans Mark Gerontological Chair in Engineering. So I could go on with more stories. We've got a great program ahead of us this evening to celebrate Johnny and the tremendous impact that he has had on all of our lives. But to help capture that impact for generations of our future students and our faculty, Johnny, I'm pleased to unveil a new portrait of you that will hang on the 10th floor in Ernest Cockrell Hall. The dean's office, the dean's reception up there, and seeing this array of 7 former deans is really motivating to me every day when I go to work. And I know, Johnny, you don't like the current portrait, so we have commissioned a new one for you. And I'd like to call up Roger Bonacase to the stage, and we are going to unveil the new portrait of Johnny McKetta. So, hold it up? Okay. And I've told Johnny many times, I hope I look as good as he does when I'm 75. Okay, well, with that, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the program, and thank you very much for all the support and all that you do for the University of Texas and the Cockrell School of Engineering.
I'm pleased to introduce 4 alumni to say a few words. We will hear first from Mr. C.A. Rundell, who received his B.S. in Chemical Engineering in 1954. C.A.?
It's a pleasure to be here and talk about Johnny. I came to UT in the fall of 1950 as a junior, having completed 2 years of pre-engineering in junior college, so I had Johnny as a professor fairly quickly over the next couple of years. Then he asked me to serve as his lab instructor, so he was my boss. Subsequently, he became a friend, a relationship that I cherish. Johnny was a different professor. He would regale you with tales from his past, and he's got a lot of them, for the first 10 minutes, and that got you on the edge of your chair. And it was a good thing, because then the facts began to come at you at a mile a minute. I had to miss a few classes because I was on the cross-country and track teams, but he was very good about providing me time to catch up. You see, Johnny was more than a professor. You could go to him with concerns, and I did. He probably doesn't even remember this, but I did not like the hazing situation in the fraternities. I thought it brought out the worst in the hazers and was borderline dangerous for the hazees. I asked Johnny what I could do as a pledge master to make Hell Week a better experience. He said, put them to work. I went away and thought about it and came up with a plan that had the pledge class spending 2 hours a night for Hell Week, digging out a basement area under Taylor Hall that became the Taylor Tea Room. Many of my Kappa Sig pledges, as a result of their upbringing, did not know for sure whether their hands would fit a shovel or a jackhammer or a wheelbarrow. But they learned. Most of them thanked me for the experience that was Johnny's idea. What would you expect from a coal miner? For those of you that don't know, Johnny got his first value training when after high school he went to work in a coal mine before he got his educational experience. Another example of Johnny's scientific breadth and common sense was his comment that when Krakatoa erupted in 1883, it spewed more pollution into the atmosphere than all the cars ever built. That is a clever way of telling the greenies that logic would suggest if they wanted to get mad at somebody, it should be God, not the domestic power companies that would be way down on the list. I cannot sit down without talking about one of Johnny's famous rituals, that of calling us on our birthday. He has a list of former students decreasing in number every year, now numbering, I think, close to 700. Johnny has our birthdays on his calendar and usually calls during the day. I am convinced that is so he can flirt with our wives. My Sylvia says it is the highlight of her day. Like most of us, we all know that Johnny's reached the age where he cannot take yes for an answer. So we're not worried. However, I did say something to one of the deans, who'll go unnamed, and he replied, if you think he flirts with your wife, you should see him with mine. It's time to close. Kelsey gave me 5 minutes, and I can give her some time back. But I cannot express my sentiments for Johnny, as well as Ruth Crawford, his longtime assistant. She said, "Johnny is the best public relations man the school has ever had. People love Johnny, and Johnny loves people." Thank you.
Thank you, CA. I've been regaled with many of John's stories, and like you, I treasure them all. And his calling people on his birthday almost makes me want to get to 50, but I'm still not too much in a hurry for that. I'd like to ask Diana Naylord-Knox, B.S. Kimmy, 1979, to come forward now. Diana?
I have a little prop here with me. Get this down. Good evening and happy birthday, Dr. McKetta. I'm Diana Knox, Naylor to you, and I'm a UT Kimmy from the December class of 1979. Just to take you back to those days, Jimmy Carter was president, so Dr. McKetta was not working for him. Elvis Presley died. 3 Mile Island accident just occurred, and the Russians had just invaded Afghanistan. Earl Campbell had just left UT, and Lorene Rogers was president, the first and only woman president of UT. In the fall of 1978, I had unit operations taught by Dr. John J. McKetta Jr. on my schedule. I was a little apprehensive. I'd heard about you. You were a legend, the most famous chemical engineer in the world, and you had published the first few volumes of your 69-volume encyclopedia of chemical processing design. You'd worked for presidents and served on many boards. I calculated that there might not be anywhere to hide in your class, and I was right. Your class was hard. My recollection is that your tests had absolutely nothing to do with the notes that we took in class. And many times you would reschedule our class for 8 o'clock on Saturday morning just to see who was dedicated enough to show up. But it was fun. You had this amazing way of making each student feel comfortable and important. You loved chemical engineering, and you loved teaching us to be curious and encouraging us to go the extra mile to be successful. You also loved to tease us, to find our hot buttons and push them regularly. Mine was that I was a sorority girl, actually president of my sorority, endless teasing about that. So because of this, and because you were my favorite professor, I invited you to my sorority house for our honored faculty dinner. You came, and you were so much fun and so charming that my sisters could not understand what could be so terrible about chemical engineering and unit operations. I then received this note from you dated April of 1979. Dear Diana, actually you call me Diane, Mrs. McKay bought this paper for me, especially to write to Gamma Phi Beta girls who are so extra nice to me. I enjoyed so much the real pleasure to have dinner with your group and was so flattered that of all the chemical engineering professors, you chose me to be your guest. It is always nice to be with the best-looking gal, and I was proud to be there with you. I'm saving for you at the office a special gift in the form of some note paper. I say special because A, Lyndon B. Johnson's prize longhorn posed for the picture. B, Mrs. William Cunningham, Dr. Bill's lovely wife Mary, painted the original. And C, the funds go for the children at Austin State School. Now come on by my office and pick up the paper and save me 13 cents. Signed, you're great, and I'm proud of you, John J. McKetta Jr. Dr. McKetta, you were a bit of a hero to me, and as you see, I framed that note, and it hangs in my office. I've been asked what it was like to be a female chemical engineering student of Dr. McKetta's, and that's always an interesting question, I think, because I'm not sure that it was a lot different from being a male chemical engineering student of Dr. McKetta's. But it was great, and you did flirt with us. Out of 120 in the 1979 class, there were 18 gals. I think Dr. McKetta was proud to be turning his gals into chemical engineers. We got a little extra attention from him, but if we got too prissy, he would just throw an eraser at us so that we knew who was boss. Well, we made it out of unit operations, chemical engineering, and UT. And Dr. McKetta, you were so proud of us, and you followed us after graduation. I mean, literally. I worked for Exxon and traveled quite a bit. On more than one occasion, I would get on an airplane and hear, "Well, honey, Diana Naylor, how are you?" And there would be you, Dr. McKetta, with your giganimous smile, so interested in me, interested in my career, and very interested in my marital status. Why has some smart chemical engineering boy not married you yet? You would ask. I think this happened 5 or 6 times over the years. And Dr. McKetta, I finally did marry Kobe Knox. Kobe is not a chemical engineer, but his dad is. His dad is Tom Knox, who was a chemical engineer from A&M. He was a big fan of yours and would meet with you to try and recruit your best engineers to his company, Loomis. When Tom learned that Kobe and I were getting married, because I was a chemical engineer and because I knew you, he overlooked the fact that I was a T-SIP and gave Kobe a big Aggie thumbs up. And one last story. Kobe and I moved in next door to a wonderful couple, Hugh and Mary Sue Blasek. Once again, Dr. McKetta, you created a special bond. Hugh and I would stand out in the street and tell Dr. McKetta stories, his from his time in your class as one of your first students, and mine from time in your class 35 years later. 2 Dr. McKetta fans out of thousands. Thank you, Dr. McKetta, for being such an extraordinary man, educator, and inspiration to so many. I pray that God bless you and your family, and again, happy birthday.